Hey everyone, my name is Sajin, and I'm going to be walking you through my research for this semester into open source neuroprosthetics. So the purpose of this project was essentially to make an advancement into the field of neuroprosthetics, which is essentially controlling a prosthetic hand with brainwaves. And in doing so, we can help improve the lives and the mobility of people living with limb loss. So one of the biggest points of this project was to develop a streamlined way to control these prosthetic limbs. So I want to go directly from the brain signal to the limb actually moving. And there's a little bit of a diagram right here of just kind of how that signal goes through a path in getting to the arm. And so this semester was essentially spent setting that up and testing it out and proving the concept, proving that this works. Now, a little side objective of this project was to make the hand more so imitate a natural system than what's currently out there, which is usually just using motors. But I'll get into that a little bit later about how I used artificial muscles to move a finger. So you might be asking yourself, how did he do this? And this project was split into essentially two parallel paths. So we have the brain-controlled motor actuation and the artificial muscles. So the brain-controlled motor actuation is essentially just proving the point that we can take a brain signal and turn it into a motor moving. This was done initially with the NeuroSky headset, but later on we moved to the OpenBCI, which is pictured in the top right. And this is an open source hardware system and software system that can be modified and customized based on what you actually want, which leads to innovation and lower costs later down the road. This system functions by essentially setting a threshold point, and it reads your attention value, which is essentially how hard you're focusing on anything really. It's just a blanket value for your brain. And in this case, it goes from 0 to 100. So I set it to trigger the motor when it goes above 25. So it's essentially just a binary threshold where it's either off below 25 or on above 25. This isn't exactly what we want in the end goal, but this is a great way to prove that you can turn a brain signal into an electrical signal that moves a motor. Next, we have the artificial muscle. And as said before, it's kind of the purpose of this is to advance prosthetic hands, but also give someone living with limb loss a more real experience with their prosthetic hand. So you don't hear motors whirring around and all these weird sounds. And also the artificial muscles, in this case, when we're using tempered supercoiled nylon fishing line, is stronger by mass than a motor that could fit in the same size hand. Now, the only challenge with this was that it's heat activated. And I got by just fine for this trial, where I just used a heat gun to contract the muscle. However, the next group taking over this research is going to have to look further into creating like a thermal management system that can heat and cool the muscle efficiently and for a relatively low cost. So there's also a few other future prospects for this project, which include using the OpenBCI hardware and software to isolate brain signals and convert that into movement of extremities, so an individual finger, an individual toe. Right now, it's only moving everything all at once, and we want to isolate those movements and be able to individually manipulate different digits of a hand. Next, we also want to streamline the OpenBCI sensor array. So essentially just make the sensor array something really compact that can either fit on a pair of glasses or in a headband or a pair of headphones, something really subtle and compact that someone can wear while they use their prosthetic limb. And lastly, we're also going to need a slightly new design in the actual prosthetic hand or foot or arm itself, in that it has just a different set of inner workings that need a different housing and likely different thermal properties. I've really enjoyed working on this project, and let me know if you guys have any questions.